Let's talk about the pandemic. Obviously, your other big focus, in addition to climate change, the US just hit 500,000 deaths. And I just wanted to take a moment there. How does that number strike you?
Well, it's unbelievably. It's, more than any war we've been in, except the Civil War. It's enough that I'm sure it's touched almost everybody. We count on government to both before something bad happens and when something bad happens to protect us. And it didn't work in this case. So, hopefully it's a lesson going forward about investments in global health that the US and the US cooperating with other countries need to get done to be ready for the next pandemic.
How concerned are you about the new variants and vaccines keeping up?
Well, amazingly, our foundation was studying 3 vaccines in trials in South Africa when the variant showed up. And so we were able to gather really detailed data showing that they all still had some beneficial effect, but particularly Novavax and Johnson, even though they worked a little less well, were still a great tool there. And so weirdly, the US didn't sequence enough to see its variants like the UK and even what we funded in South Africa. Now that's being remedied, just another miscue by the country that should have done the best job. So we'll get on top of the variants. We may need to tune the vaccines. All the manufacturers are looking through how quickly they could get that done. It'll add to the transmission and deaths, but if we get vaccination rates up only by at most a month or two.
Are Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson doing enough to prioritize populations in developing countries? And what's the ideal shot for the developing world?
No, the private sector, including those 3 companies, did a fantastic job. We've been backing the mRNA approach for about a decade now. Sadly, it's not that mature, and so you can't scale it up as much as we'd like, nor is it cheap. And so the vaccines 3 through 5, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, and Novavax, can be scaled up through Indian factories to a higher degree. So for developing countries, those 3 and sending the right ones to the right place will be most of the solution, not to take away from anything that Pfizer, who funded its work, or Moderna did. But those will mostly land in rich countries.
So at this point, what are the biggest headwinds that you see in the vaccine manufacturing process?
Yeah, well, every day there's a complex discussion about, okay, do we have enough glass vials for fill finish? Do we have all these different ingredients that come from different countries? I do think some of the, vaccine nationalism, where people are trying to look good in their own country by somewhat blocking things going around, that's, there's huge downside in that. We need to get the vaccines out in large numbers. We need to end this epidemic globally. And from the beginning, the voice of the foundation is included not only moving faster, but this equity question. And over the next 4 or 5 months, the world can behave well. It's mostly governments now that are limiting how much we can help countries that don't have vaccine factories.